What's up, everybody? Time to do our commissioner picks for the week. And taking us through week 3. I'm going to get us started. I'm going to try to move through this quick because we got a lot to talk about. But let's get into it. Starting off, we got Paul's Wunderwolff versus Mike's Mihow. So, fun matchup here, right? I think Mihow's got the better quarterbacks this week, but Fields, if he can stop sucking, right, and he's thrown a lot of interceptions, there's been a lot of hype and noise about him. He could provide the advantage here. I don't think that happens. Fields plays against Kansas City, and they obviously are not going to allow Fields to have a heyday here. So I think it's probably not going to happen for Fields. Again, we probably have another week of talking heads looking at what's going to happen with Chicago going forward, but giving the quarterback advantage here to Mihow. At the running back position, we got Josh Kelly, we've got James Cook, and Ken Walker. I think all three of those guys have a good weekend here, but with Christian McCaffrey putting up 22 points on Thursday, it's hard to overcome that lead. I think Paul's wide receiver and flex spot is the key weakness here for him. He's got Taysom Hill at flex. Jordan Reed and Amon-Ra all have me worried, but we just got a Christian Watson inactive. So Jordan Reed might actually have a very big game. That could be a big game changer for today. Amon-Ra, I know, is still dealing with a bit of injury, so we'll look to see what he does there. Question marks around that. Really, unless Goddard can eat all of A.J. Brown's touchdowns, and I don't think that happens, even with the issue that we saw last week. I think A.J. Brown has a good game this weekend. I think the win here goes to Mihow. That moves Mihow to 3-0. It moves Wunderwolff to 0-3. Shite. Let me figure out what the hell I just did. I'm trying to give you guys a better view without a bunch of ads, so this is a little clunky, my mistake. All right, next we're doing Brendan's Running Backs Don't Matter versus Vince's Cancer Boys. And so let's take a look at what we got here. We've got quarterbacks. I got them as a complete wash in this matchup, right? So Jordan Love is injured, dealing with an injury. There were suggestions that he's on a snap count this weekend. I think, obviously, Josh Allen at Washington should be fun. Trevor Lawrence at Houston's, we ought to see a lot of air yards for both of them. Tannehill, I think he actually is going to start to get right here. So we'll see what happens. But I've got it as a wash. At running backs, we've got a get-right game for Miles Sanders. Ramondre is going against the Jets, and we know in week 1 the Jets' defense was fantastic. I think this week they're trying to figure out what their identity is. James Conner is really the only piece that you want in the Arizona offense. I mean, having Hollywood Brown, I can say that. I think Josh Jacobs still trying to get into football shape after being out all of the offseason. And so, kind of some hard matchups at the running back position here. At wide receiver and flex, Vince takes a slight advantage as Tajay Spears on Brendan's team is likely to lose targets to King Henry. And then at tight end and kicker, I think this is where Vince typically is going to win his matchup. So I'm giving Vince the win, moving him to 2-1, moving Brendan and Running Backs Don't Matter team to 1-2. Let's go back. Now we're going to go to Peter's Straight Cash Homie versus Ian's Dodd Take Mahomes. Both teams here, really, I just don't think it's going to be that big of a matchup. I think the early game advantage on Thursday is not able to be overcome. Let's see what my notes say here. Really, unless Tony Jones, Tyler Algier, unless these three, Tony Jones, Tyler Algier, and Juwan Johnson, all come down with a touchdown, which I think is possible, but just not likely. I think the win here goes to Peter, moving him to 1-2, moving Ian to 1-2 as well. All right, next up, we've got Nick's Wilson to Wilson versus Aubrey's not so very good team. But hey, Aubrey starting off with 2-0. I got to give him props. I gave him a lot of shit last week. He's sitting at 2-0 right now. That's fantastic. On the opposite end of the spectrum, Nick has got an 0-2 team here. Both of these teams are projected to be under 100 points, which I think is always a little spicy. We've got Mac versus Zach at the quarterback position. Mac Jones, I mean, week 1, I think they had the most passing attempts, I believe. Zach Wilson, not great. And both of these teams have a tight end in their super flex position, which I thought was interesting. In addition to that, Aubrey's got 3 tight ends here that he's rostering, so he's looking to take advantage of the tight end premium points that we've got. Nick's got 3 rookies and Atlanta's top receiver, which, as we all probably guess, would be Mac Hollins, of course. I think that those 4 guys, so the 3 rookies, right? And maybe I'm wrong here. Gibbs is a rookie, Flowers is a rookie. I guess I was including Garrett Wilson as a rookie, but he's not, obviously. But anyway, Gibbs, Wilson, Flowers, those 3 guys plus Mac Hollins. I think that actually does give Nick a win this week. I'm moving Nick to 1-2. I'm moving Aubrey to 2-1. All right, next up, we got a kittle bit of Connor versus Lindentt's team. So Mike, let's see. Mike's sitting at 2-0, Lindentt at 0-2. Let's see what happens here. So Kirk is playing lights out, even though they're not able to come up with some wins this week or this year. Kirk versus Dak at QB gets Lindentt off to a hot start. I think Kirk continues to have some of the most air yardage out there. I'd imagine Dak relies on Tony Pollard a lot this game. I think Dallas probably gets an early lead, probably relies on Tony often going into the second half. And that usually is going to mean Dak not getting too many air yards there. So I do think Kirk takes the advantage over Dak. At running back, Lindentt continues his lead as I project. Joe Burrow is probably going to rely pretty heavily on Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow is dealing with an injury today and probably for the next few weeks. I know I'm not rostering him, but we'll get to that here in a minute. But yeah, I do think Joe Mixon has a get-right game here. I know he's been a little bit slow the past 2 games. So we'll see what he does, but I've got Joe Mixon being helped out by Joey B's injury. Mike should have some good games, though, from each of his 4 wide receivers. So Amari Cooper, Nico Collins, Mike Evans, even T. Higgins, I think, probably gets a little bit of a bump here with Joey B's injury. The thing here that I didn't account for when I was making these notes is that Aaron Jones is out. I did not expect that. That was just mentioned. So we'll see. Hopefully, I know Mike usually is on top of this. Hopefully we get Aaron Jones out and get a replacement in there. Otherwise, I think this swings over to Lindentt's team. But, I mean, let's just take a quick look at who he could put in there. I don't know. I guess DeAndre Hopkins would be the easy slot in there. So, yeah, I mean, well, he doesn't. Oh, shit. You're in a tough spot there, Mikey. I don't know what you're going to do. You can't obviously put DeAndre Hopkins in a running back position, and you've got wide receivers in your flex already. So we'll see what happens. I had originally called this a 3-0 start for Mike. Aaron Jones being out is a huge bummer, though, for him. And that might move it back over to the Lindentt side. So I'm going to call it Lindentt. We'll move Lindentt to, I think that moves him to 1-2, and we'll give Mike his first loss here. All right. Next up, we got Turdfergson. Erik's Turdfergson versus Yianni's Sons of the Harpy. So here we go. I'm expecting a big get-right game here for Deshaun Watson. Call me crazy here, but I think he gets it going versus Tennessee. But, you know, C.J. Stroud has performed well. He's looked pretty good, and I think he could see some big yardage today as they go up against Jacksonville. I think that's going to be a fun game to watch. C.J. Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, I think both of those quarterbacks probably have a pretty promising future. So we'll see what happens there. Jared Goff, you know, he's been good. He plays against Atlanta. I think Atlanta's secondary has gotten better. I don't think it's not where I thought it was going to be. So I'll be interested to see if they can step it up today. But right now, I just don't think it's going to happen. I do think Jared Goff has a good game. I'm not high on Russell Wilson. I don't think he's going to have a massive game against Miami. I do think Miami continues to push forward pretty well here. I expect very little out of Yianni's running backs here. So Breece Hall and Rachaad White, just they're not going to do well. I'll just put it out there as a fact because I just don't think they're going to do it right. But I do think his wide receivers, Mike Williams and Puka Nacua, I think they continue to have good games. They should make up for the running backs a bit and have another big game like they did last weekend. Erik's flex, however, Jamar Chase and Cade Otton, plus the tight end of Travis Kelce are the 3 guys that I think secures him the win. I give Erik the win, moving him to 2-1, and moving Yianni to 1-2. All right, penultimate matchup here. We got the trio of Jack, Steve, and Teddy versus JP's all-rookie team. I think the trio would have won this matchup. Let me give you a better screen here. I think they would have won this matchup if they could have been bothered to take out Brandon Ayuk, but they couldn't be bothered. And so we see them taking an L here, unless we get monster games out of Sam Howell, Devontae Smith, and Isaiah Pacheco. And I do think we're going to get good games out of all three of them. I think Pacheco is going to have a good game. Devontae Smith is a monster. And Sam Howell's been playing great, so that's been a good pickup for them. But I do think that all three of those pieces have to drastically outperform their projection in order to get a win. I don't think that happens, so I'm going to give JP the win here, moving him to 2-1, moving Jack, Steve, and Teddy down to 1-2. And then last up, you've got yours truly versus Katie's chubby little hands, and let's see what we got going on here. So I'm putting in Desmond Ridder. I think Joey B's hurt. I don't really want to deal with the dink and dunks to T. Higgins and Joe Mixon. I also think, and I said this in chat earlier, I expect Desmond Ridder and the Falcons to continue to get better here. He played great in Cincinnati. I think Arthur Smith eventually gets us back to what he looked like there. I think this week we probably get close to that 100 yards of rushing, but call me crazy on that one. Detroit gave up 30 points last week to Geno Smith, so that's another promising stat for me to convince myself to play Desmond over Joey B. And then on the other side, Geno Smith plays Carolina, and their defense has been pretty good. I think all running backs here are set to have big games. So Tony Pollard, we already talked about. Javonte Williams for Denver. He's looked pretty good. I'm excited. I'm happy I didn't trade him away this offseason. I think Mostert's going to have a big game against Denver. I've got him going on in some dailies. I think King Henry gets it going today. I think he continues to pick up speed, get football ready. I think we start to see him more active in the passing game. So big games for all the running backs. At the wide receiver side, Katie gets a big advantage here, right? So from flex spots, and I think Travis Etienne is going to have a monster game. I tried to pick him up off of JP in our redraft league. Couldn't make it happen. I think he has a big game today. DK's injured, so I think Lockett's going to end up having more volume there, but that could go to JSN, who knows. And then both tight ends here, really not great for fantasy value so far this season. Either of them could fall into the end zone. But I've got Katie taking the win here, moving her to 2-1, moving me down to 2-1 as well. Okay, let's see if I can do anything to get this just on me. I don't think I can, so I'll just keep it here. Listen, I'd like to go ahead and announce I want to go get the top point scorers for weeks 1, 2, and 3 on a video call this week. If I can't get it all of us together, I'll probably just have us do independent videos. So be prepared for that. If you were the top scorer in weeks 1, 2, and 3, I'll let you know here in a bit. And then if anyone does any video editing, I would love a little bit of help of putting these videos together, splicing them, dicing them, and getting them up on our YouTube channel or my YouTube channel. If anyone's interested in helping make videos or wants to actually have a kind of like a podcast style setup where we go over these matchups, I'd be down to do that as well. I think Nick had mentioned helping out. So yeah, let me know if you're interested in doing that. I would love help and would love to get something a little bit more formal than me holding my laptop as I scroll through the different matchups. So outside of that, go Falcons. Have a great week 3.